14 years ago, I lost 50 pounds of fat. I then spent the following 6 years going through some bulking and cutting phases, where I'd spend 7 months in a muscle building phase, gaining about 20 to 30 pounds throughout that process, and then spending the next 12 to 16 weeks burning off any kind of excess fat that I would have gained throughout that muscle building phase. Now, it's been 8 years since I've had to go through a 12-week fat loss phase where I did lose 20 pounds of fat. I've basically just stayed in my sweet spot between 5 and 10 pounds. Lately, it's been more around 5 pounds simply because I've been lifting for 37 years, pretty much at or near my genetic muscular potential, and gaining any more than 5 pounds just means I'm packing on excess fat unnecessarily. So staying within the sweet spot, but if I had to lose 20 pounds or more again, this is exactly what I would do. Number one would be to reflect back on my past fat loss experiences. Even if you weren't successful in following through all the way to the end, there's likely things that you did well, that you did right throughout that process. So what can you learn from those experiences? Maybe you found that a certain number of meals per day suited you best. It was able to kind of sustain your appetite throughout the day, where if you ate any less than that, it would increase your appetite and increase your chances of having a binge eating experience or snacking unnecessarily. Maybe you found that there was a certain eating window that suited you best. Maybe not having anything after 6 p.m. kept your eating window narrow enough where it suited you well. You went to bed feeling light, you woke up feeling light, and you just felt good about the overall process. Maybe it even helped you sleep better by stopping eating at 6 p.m. Maybe you found certain meals made you feel more satisfied and sustained your energy for an extended period of time. So reflecting back on those things that went well that you can implement now as you're going through this fat loss phase, but also reflecting back on what you learned from those experiences. What were some of the triggers that led you to overeat? Was it stress or boredom? Was it just temptations when you were out at an event? How can you handle those situations better? Maybe it comes down to mindset. Maybe it's a matter of you're at these events, you see the temptations there, you have a cookie, and you're like, I blew my diet. Here I go. Every time I'm trying to lose fat, I can't stick with a plan, realizing that you can have that cookie. All these desserts can fit into your fat loss meal plan, your nutrition. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach, but because you had that mentality, one cookie led to having the brownies, having some chips, having the ice cream, just going nuts thinking that you blew your diet and you're gonna have to start again tomorrow. So what can you learn from those experiences so you can handle these situations better when you're faced with them in this fat loss process here? So that is number one. That is something that I would not ignore. I think this is the key to your long-term success. It's always learning and growing. It's never going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect this time around. So preparing yourself, learning from those past experiences so you can continue to improve each time that you attempt to achieve your fat loss goals, your physique goals. Next, number two is to look at, let's say you have a goal to lose 20 pounds. Let's break it down into weekly goals and daily goals. So really get yourself focused on the process. You know the outcome goal, you can kind of let that go once you focus on the daily tasks that you need to execute. So being responsible with your weekly goal, maybe it's 1.5 pounds per week that's going to suit you best. It's aggressive enough to experience that enthusiasm. You're seeing the scale moving, you're seeing your body lean out. It's motivating in that sense, but it's not so aggressive that it's going to be really difficult to stick throughout the entire process here. So if your goal is to lose 1.5 pounds per week, it's likely going to take you about 12 weeks to lose that 20 pounds, considering that first week you're probably going to lose 3, maybe even 4 pounds. So the rest of the time, if it's 1.5 pounds per week, you're looking at achieving this goal in about 12 weeks. But I would give yourself a little bit of leeway because you're going to have some weeks where you don't experience that kind of progress, where things aren't going to go as planned. So if you can't hit it in 12 weeks, it's okay. If you achieve it in 14 or even 16 weeks, you're still, the bottom line is that you're achieving your goal. So don't beat yourself up if you don't hit that 12-week deadline, or if you don't hit your goal every single week, but try to stay disciplined as you can and be kind to yourself throughout this process. So what's it going to take to achieve that 1.5 pounds of weight loss each and every week? I will include a link down below in the description to the calorie calculator on my website, where you're going to enter in your age, height, your weight, and your activity level. That's going to give you your TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure. That's the amount of calories you would consume in order to maintain your body weight. Really important to note that this is just an estimate. It's just meant to be a starting point here. So if your goal is to lose 1 pound per week, a general rule of thumb is creating a 500 calorie deficit. So if your TDEE, total daily energy expenditure, is 2,500 calories, you subtract 500 from that. So 2,000 calories a day would allow you to lose approximately 1 pound per week, assuming you're consistent with everything and that these numbers are somewhat accurate there. 1.5 pounds per week, it would be a 750 calorie deficit. So you'd be aiming for 1,750 calories if your TDEE is 2,500. Again, this is just a starting point. So if you find like after 2 to 3 weeks, you're only losing a pound at 1,750 calories, you're gonna have to reduce it. Listen to your body's feedback, understanding that these are estimates and the amount of food that you're consuming are all estimates as well. The more consistent you are, the easier it's going to be to gauge this, to get more information from the feedback that your body's providing you with. So if you know your calorie intake, let's say your target is 2,000 calories for the day, you don't necessarily have to hit 2,000 calories each and every day. I prefer, when it comes to fat loss, to look at my calorie intake on a weekly basis. So it'd be 14,000 calories for the week. So you may have a day where you consume 2,200 calories. It doesn't mean that you blew your diet. It doesn't mean you're off track. If you consume 1,900 calories for the next 2 days, it evens out at the end of the week. So it gives you a bit of a wiggle room where if you have an event coming up that you know there's going to be a lot of temptations and you want to enjoy some of those foods, you can allow yourself to consume a bit more calories that day and then kind of make up for it the rest of the week. Ideally, I mean, that's been something that has worked for me in the past. One of the fat loss phases that I went through, Friday nights was my higher calorie day, and it was significantly higher than my target, but it meant that I had to be significantly lower for my calorie intake for the rest of the week to make up for it. And I found that it made it difficult to kind of gauge my feedback according to the scale weight, because you experience a spike in the scale weight. And again, some people would think, well, I blew my diet. This really sucks seeing my weight go up. But if you stick to the plan and balance things out and aim for your calorie target at the end of the week, you see at the end of the week, you end up hitting your goal, even though your weight spikes up and goes down. So it's always up and down. It's never really linear no matter what, but I do find that if I keep my calorie intake consistent around that 2,000 calorie mark each and every day, it keeps my energy levels sustained, my performance is sustained, my appetite is better sustained, and it's a little easier to measure the feedback that I'm getting from my scale weight and what I'm seeing in the mirror as well. So I do find the more consistent you are with your intake, the better it is. But again, it's best to go with what suits your lifestyle best. So if 2,000 calories is your target for the day, what I would do is take a look at the meals that you typically consume and how can you fit them into that calorie target by managing the portion sizes of those foods. So maybe it means for dinner you're having a 6-ounce chicken breast one day, or 5-ounce pork chop or something. Like having an idea of what that portion size would look like for each of those meals in order to hit that target. So you can, if you do that, you just enter that data in there just to give you an idea of what that portion size would look like. And you can leave it at that. You don't have to track your intake if you don't want. If you find it tedious, at least now you have some sort of calorie awareness to the portion size that's going to suit you best. And then you just consume those portion sizes and go based on the feedback that you're seeing on the scale and what you're seeing in the mirror, how your clothes are fitting, how you're feeling, all that kind of stuff. You do that. But it may be a good idea for you to spend the next week or two actually tracking your intake. And the beauty of tracking your intake is that, especially over the short term, you have some flexibility. So say you have your typical meals that you entered into, say, MyFitnessPal or any other kind of calorie tracker, that you see your meals are going to hit 2,000 calories a day. But today you're out with friends, like, well, I want to have this meal, but it's not a part of my meal plan. You can be flexible. So it allows you to, all right, I'm going to remove this meal that I would typically have and fit this in instead. What kind of adjustments do I need to make in the portion size of the rest of my meals throughout the day in order to fit this in to my daily calorie target for the day? So it's just an eye-opening education experience. I like to view calorie tracking as a short-term tool, especially if you have a heightened sense of awareness to the portion sizes that you're consuming, how satisfied you're feeling after each meal. So you're kind of educating yourself not only in how many calories are in each meal, but how those meals are making you feel. So you can kind of wean yourself off the calorie tracking after a short period of time there. Some people love the calorie tracking, especially over the long term. If that's you, that's amazing. Go for it. But I find most people are better served by just using it in the short term there. Now, when it comes to your activities, think to yourself, like, what do you want to do? There's no specific, again, with the foods, there's no foods that you have to eat. There's no foods that you have to avoid. There's no exercises or workouts that you need to do, or exercises or workouts that you need to avoid. It's like, what serves you best? So do you want to do weight training, which I think is incredibly beneficial? It can be with resistance training, can be with dumbbells, barbells, cables, bands, your own body weight, whatever it is that you desire, you roll with that. Do you want to improve your cardiovascular conditioning? Does that mean jogging or biking or rowing? Whatever you enjoy. What other activities do you enjoy that you want to work into your overall lifestyle? For myself personally, I love weight training 3 times per week. Right now I'm doing yoga 4 times per week, sometimes 5. I get out for a jog 3 times per week. I'm dancing now a few times per week. And I love to get out on the paddleboard during this warmer weather. I love to get out for walks often. I just like to live an active lifestyle. But there's some people, and Jeff is one of them, who mentioned that he only has time for 3 weight training sessions per week. He doesn't have time to add anything else in there. So it's what suits your lifestyle. It's like taking all the activities that you want to do, but then looking at your schedule and what's realistic for you to fit in there. If all you have time for is 3 30-minute workouts, that's all you have time for. You're not going to beat yourself up over not being able to do cardio or mobility or flexibility or working in any kind of yoga or anything like that. Work with what you've got and celebrate that stuff. You're working with your lifestyle. You're trying to build this plan around your lifestyle, and rather than trying to make your lifestyle fit the plan. So you want to set yourself up for success. You want to set yourself up for feeling victorious, feeling empowered. You don't want to try to fit in. If all you have time for is 3 workouts per week, you don't want to try to do 4 because you think 4 is going to be better, and try to work in some cardio because you think that's going to help you burn fat faster, and try to do all these other things. If that means you're not going to be able to stick with it, and you're going to end up feeling guilty about it and beating yourself up over it. No, it's just working with what you've got right now is the absolute key there. So fitting everything to your schedule, to your own personal preferences when it comes to your activities, as well as your nutrition. That's it. That's exactly what I would do to achieve my fat loss goal. If I needed to lose 20 pounds, another thing would be to hold myself accountable. Get yourself into a group like the Lose Fat, Get Jacked Inner Circle, where the members are supporting each other, building each other up. The ones who not only share their long-term goal, if it's 20 pounds of fat that you want to lose, but breaking it down to their weekly goals, and even more so, breaking it down to the daily goals that they have set up for themselves, the daily tasks that they want to accomplish. Holding themselves accountable to the daily tasks, I find, is the most beneficial, because it gets you focused on the process and just sharing that experience with others, learning and growing every step of the way. That's really what this is all about. So, those are my tips to help you lose 20 pounds or more per week. I'd love to hear what you find works for you. Any of these answers here, please be sure to share them down in the comment section below.